I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. 713, to the 21, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying. Sipping low-key. I'm sipping low-key and flying. It's Colorado. I get those goosebumps every time I'm around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time I need the Heimlich, throw that.
We definitely got those goosebumps tonight, that's for sure. Love it. Welcome to Load the Mag NUFC. We're back Friday night. That's Friday night, 9 p.m. We're here to talk takeovers tonight. Something a little bit different we thought we'd bring to you with the FA Cup game against Man City on Saturday. I'm really looking forward to this chat. Where LB's green room ready to go. But Daz, how are you, fella? How's things?
Oh, all good with me. Apart from the intro stopping there, I was like, what's going on here? It obviously didn't stop for you, so I have no idea why it stopped for me on my side. But yeah, no, all good with me. Late night loaded on a Friday night. Friday night lights even. No lights where LB is though. Or maybe you turned them on. It was pretty dark when we saw him there a second ago. So, but all good with me, Pete. And yourself?
Yeah, all good. You know what? This is the best I've felt since last Friday. Like obviously being ill over the weekend, Monday, Tuesday, not in a good way. You boys already know that, but yeah, this is the best I felt. I'm not gonna lie. So looking forward to this, feeling good. Got the main man in the chat. Welcome to everyone in the chat. You know the deal. Housekeeping and all the rest of it. Click those likes. Come and subscribe to the channel. We're doing things differently, and we're going to bring the main man in now. So, Man City fan from It's LB. We've got the main man LB in the house.
Welcome, LB. How's it going?
How we doing, boys? We're good.
All good.
All good, mate. I'm really glad that you that when we contacted you, that you said you come on for this one, because obviously we normally do the away days, we do the build up and all the rest of it, but it's Man City. And although you don't like to admit it, LB, although you like to be, shaking and doing backhanded deals with West Ham and Lawless, right? We are Middle Eastern brothers. We are, and I keep telling you that. So we're going to talk Middle Eastern ownership tonight. But first of all, mate, how are you? How's things?
Yeah, good, man. Very good. Obviously, big game tomorrow. We need to win it. And then it starts, man. Like Champions League draw today, crazy. You know what I mean? It's a reverse of last year. Last year, obviously, it was Bayern, Real Madrid. Yeah. This time, it's Real Madrid, Bayern, or Arsenal. Obviously, if Arsenal get there, that's provided we beat Real Madrid. So it's exciting, man. It's exciting. It's a shame you boys couldn't quite make it. You know what I mean? But maybe in the next.
Damn shame.
Yeah. Look, the one thing we'll say is that we'll be back. 110%. Like we'll be back at some point. Won't be next season, but we'll be back. But just on that point, just before we crack on, now you've won the Champions League and you obviously picked out Real Madrid today. Like, are you more confident this time going into that one?
I was confident last year, man, because the year before when we got beat off them, when we crumbled at the Bernabeu, we battered them, you know.
Yeah,
we battered them. Like at home, we beat them 4-3. We absolutely smacked them, mate. Like our finishing let us down. Our defending wasn't better. But like the actual game itself, I don't know if you've watched it or if you did or you can remember it. We was all over them. Yeah. And then we went there, and again, we actually played all right at the Bernabeu. And then just what happened? We just absolutely crumbled in the last couple of minutes and conceded 2 goals. And then that only took it to extra time. And then, of course, we ended up losing in extra time. So I was confident going into it last year anyway, because I was like, so long as we don't just do the same dumb stuff that we done last year, we'll win. And that's exactly what happened. You know, last year was no different to the year before. It was just the fact that we didn't make no mistakes last year. We smacked them up at home and then went away and did a job. So, listen, I'm so confident. Our team's obviously weaker than it was last year, as everyone probably knows. But yeah, I think for me, Real Madrid without a striker, I think when they get a striker next year, if they get Mbappe, could be different. But I just feel that we'll still have their number, I reckon, this year. I think next year, if they get Mbappe, that's a different kettle of fish. But right now, I'm still backing us to, and as well playing at the Etihad, the second leg, that's massive. You know, that's massive, because then you don't have to go to the Bernabeu and you know, hang on, because that's obviously not ideal. So yeah, listen, I'm confident. I think actually winning the Champions League this year will probably be easier than winning the Premier League, the way it's going. To be honest with you, so yeah, man, looking forward to it and enjoying it, man. Like, listen, what's the point in being in Champions League if you don't play the better teams? Bring it on, I say.
Yeah, play the best to win. And yeah, so Mbappe next season for Real Madrid, and maybe the season after that, maybe Holland. You never know.
Yeah, I doubt it, bro.
Yeah.
In Manchester City, man. In Manchester City, born and bred, he absolutely loves it. I don't know. I actually think Mbappe go in there, probably reduce the chances of Haaland going. You know, Haaland's chilling. Haaland will stay at City as long as City giving him everything that he wants, which is good manager, good team to win trophies. That's what he wants. He wants to win trophies. If City get after Pep, whenever that may be, everyone keeps on saying, "Oh, it's going to be next year." They've been saying that for the last 5 years. You know, if Pep leaves and we get like some B-Tech manager in, then yeah, he might leave. He might go Real Madrid. But the good point is about Haaland is there's only really one club in world football that he can join, which is Real Madrid. True. It's not like if Real Madrid are not in for him, he ain't going anywhere. He's not going PSG, is he? Or you know, probably won't even go Bayern Munich at this point because they've got Kane. So yeah, not something I'm really thinking of, to be honest, right now. And if he leaves, we'll come and get your boy Isak.
Oh,
he went there.
Good night, LB. Good night.
He got rid of him.
Good comeback, though. Good comeback.
Yeah. We'll quickly end that conversation and we'll move on. But look, we did say that we're going to talk takeovers, and we'll compare along the way. But I just want to get your sort of perspective on your takeover, really, because you know you're well into it now, well into your takeover. How many years? Over 10 years now, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, mate, we're way past that. It's 2008, mate. Yeah, we're you know, 15 years in.
So how did it happen then? So like, obviously, from people that are watching, the Newcastle fans that are maybe not as clued up on the Man City takeover, how it came about. Like, how did Sheikh Mansour come about into? I think it was August, September 2008.
Yeah, we were broke. Yeah, we were broke. We had a owner, Thaksin Shinawatra, who's the former prime minister of Thailand, I think it is, and yeah, the guy got his funds seized because he was some sort of corrupt guy in Thailand when he was doing dodgy deals. So. And he was spending money. He was spending future revenue. He was doing a much lesser scale, but he was doing something similar to what Barcelona were doing, which was spending future income, which is never great. You know what I mean? And whenever someone tells you how it works, it sounds dodgy. You know what I mean? And obviously now you see Barcelona in massive shit, and obviously City at the time were in the mud, and we had no money. So. Yeah, there was a couple of lads who had to broker a deal to try and find a buyer, and Sheikh Mansour came along, and obviously the rest, as they say, is history, man. And now we're cooking. So yeah, listen, we won the lottery. I know they were interested in you guys. They were interested in Everton, but I believe like what came out was they wanted a club that had like a big rival in the city, and I think that's why they turned you down at the time. And the reason they went for us over Everton is because their stadium needed a lot of investment, and they didn't really want to invest in the stadium, then build a new academy, then invest in obviously the players. They just felt it was too much. City obviously got City Manchester Stadium obviously at the time, Etihad now, so it was a new stadium, so that they didn't have to do anything with that, and it was just a case of coming in. And yeah, I mean, when you think about it, it all kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because you can obviously play off Manchester United as you start to build the club, whereas you guys, obviously, your nearest rivals are Sunderland, who you know, that's more difficult. So, but obviously you guys are a massive club, so it was always going to happen eventually. You know what I mean? And it'll keep on happening. You know, you see Aston Villa have got some money behind them now, and you know, I think at the end of the day, when these people, these billionaires are not stupid, aren't they? So when they're buying these clubs, they're doing it for a reason, and it's not just, you know, it's not just because the clubs are undervalued. You know what I mean? A lot of people at the time thought the guy overpaid for City. Well, now look at how much the group is worth. Like, you know, these people are not stupid. You know what I mean? Like, so, yeah. Now we're chilling. Obviously, stadiums gets upgraded. It's been upgraded again now. You've seen the academy. Academy is insane. Football is the best football I've ever. Well, second best football I've ever seen behind Barcelona. It's just insane, man. It's just insane. And listen, yeah, like I say, we won the jackpot, and I'm enjoying it.
But
Amanda Staveley was involved in some capacity as well in that.
I think she was. Yeah, I think she was, and I think that's why when the Saudis were buying you guys, I think City were kind of like not as hostile to that as some other clubs were. Yeah. You know, and you see that again. You know, City obviously often, other than really the Super League, which I believe we were the last ones to join and the first ones out, we was hesitant on that. You know, the club doesn't really act in the same sort of way in terms of those hostile decisions that the likes of Liverpool, Arsenal, United all vote for, because obviously they're all self-interest. So I'm not saying my club's perfect, by the way. I'm just saying, like, City are clearly open to changing the landscape of the Premier League, which it has done 100%. And more, I say, you know, more, I want more to join us. I say this all the time. I say, I want the Villas. I want you guys to challenge it, because, you know, United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, these guys, these have all had their fun. You know, when it was the big four, we all remember the big four. Now it's the big six. You know, we was there, weren't we? We were the guys who were mid-table or fighting to stay in the division, and whilst they were all collecting their Premier League revenues. Saka, man, I'm quite chill with it. And this is the thing, like, I have a different perspective on it. Obviously, I want to win the Premier League every year, right? And obviously, with the players and the manager, we expect to win it because we've got the best squad and the best manager. But you know, at the same time, I'm not entitled. Like, you get a lot of other fans of other fan bases are very entitled about their position in the league, and like, they shouldn't be able to spend that, and they shouldn't be able to spend that. It's all self-interest. It's all because they just want their club to be at the top, because that's all they've ever known. You know, we've seen our clubs in lower divisions, haven't we? You know, fighting to get back in the division. So, yeah, listen, like I say, it sounds like I'm trying to say like my club's perfect, and that I'm not. I'm just saying I like to think that my club is more open to not just shutting this league down, so that with like financial regulations, just to help itself. You know, I don't think that's even good for the league. So, yeah, that's where we're at.
But you're part of the big six, as they refer to it now, and this is kind of the thing, because you're saying your club's more open to like other teams coming in, and to be fair, you can see it in the voting. Whenever the Premier League meet and the voting comes about, you are kind of you do get your Man United, Arsenal, Liverpool's, and your Tottenhams that kind of stick together, and you don't. Your club votes how they want to vote. They're not like drawn to another big club. But do you think that means that you're treated differently as a club? And look, I'm not forget like the Premier League and the charges and all that stuff. We can get to that stuff later on. But do you think your club gets treated differently as one of the top six?
Yeah, because they don't like it. They don't like it, do they? You know what I mean? Like, they don't like the way that the facts is, yeah, City's owners come into this league to win. Yeah, right. And the other owners don't like that, because they weren't putting the money in. The Glazers weren't putting the money in. The Glazers were winning a few trophies, or quite a lot of trophies under Fergie, whilst taking dividends, and they weren't putting any money into the football club. All the transfers were coming out of the club, the money that they generated, great, but the owners were taking dividends, yeah? Same with the FSG at Liverpool. They weren't putting too much money in, and obviously Arsenal have had troubles. So you've got all these owners who are not putting any money in and still getting, like, the clubs are running themselves, they're doing all fine. Obviously, they get some hostilities from the fan base, right? Because obviously the fan base wants them to put more money in. Sheikh Mansour, he don't want to take a dividend from Manchester City. Yeah, guy's a fucking billionaire, mate. You don't need to take £100 million dividend from Manchester City. The guy, you know what I mean, is balling in it. So he come in and he's like, I will spend 50 million on this player, 60 million on this player, 40 million on this player. And then all of a sudden, that upset the other owners because all these fans of all these clubs, started going, oh, City's spending all this money. We need to start spending money. And then the owners, obviously, of these clubs gone, this is a problem because they're going to end up winning everything. And the only way that we can compete and keep our fans happy is by spending. That means that we've got to start putting our own money into the club. I mean, it's really not rocket science when you look at it. And you understand to a certain degree why these owners of these football clubs would be frustrated because they've had it their own way. They had it their own way for over a decade, maybe two. You know what I mean? With the big four. It was them maybe Tottenham managed to break into it once or twice. I think Everton did it once, but on the whole, it was the same four clubs getting the same Champions League money every single year. And their owners were laughing. And then obviously you're now getting the billionaire owners, the proper owners, like the Roman Abramoviches, the Cities, the Newcastles, who were like, yeah, we were not asked about taking dividends or whatever. What we want to do, we want to win. And that put the other clubs under pressure. I believe anyway that Premier League has now fundamentally changed. I don't think United ever get, and Liverpool, these sort of clubs, I don't think they ever get back the power that they once had. I think it's gone. So, yeah.
No, it's an interesting point actually about that. We might come back to that later on actually, because I think that's a really interesting point, particularly the fact that we are talking about us and Villa, like you said, and Brighton, West Ham. There are other teams there being more competitive. But I just want to run through a little bit of a timeline. So we talked about the ownership coming in, Sheikh Mansour. A little bit of a journey. We like a storyboard, don't we, Daz? We like going through a little bit of a story.
We sure do.
And look, Sheikh Mansour came in. We haven't even talked about this guy, Robinho, man. Bringing him in. How did it feel bringing someone like him in straight away after you take over?
That was unreal because these were the days before Twitter. So this was just like, nowadays, whenever a transfer is announced, you already know it's going to be announced by the time it's done, don't you? This was just sat there watching Sky Sports News on transfer deadline day. And all of a sudden, bang, City signing Robinho. And it was like, what the heck? You know what I mean? It was absolutely crazy. It was unbelievable. And actually, he did all right in the first part. He come in and he actually started doing quite well. He scored a couple goals, was decent, and then he sort of tailed off as his career went. But he actually started really well. But that was when you was like, oh, this is real. This is real now. You know what I mean? We've actually got this money. This isn't just some sort of hoax, some guy who thinks he's rich. No. This is the real deal. And obviously, like I say, from there it just went kind of crazy. And listen again, we spent a lot of money at the start on transfers, on wages, but you have to do that. You have to do that.
You already had this man in charge. You had Mark Hughes in charge, and I think during his 18 months-ish in charge, I think he spent something like 270 million, which doesn't sound a lot now, but back then that was big money. He had a lot of money, and obviously he was then sacked into his sort of second season at the club, and he was moved on. I think in his full season he finished 10th in that season, which wasn't great. And it wasn't really sort of what your owners were looking at that point. But can you remember that time?
Yeah, I remember the time. It was a decent manager. You know what I mean? It was just a few too many draws. And ultimately, City weren't in for messing around. These owners again, they're not for messing around. They wanted to win. Again, this is what I keep saying. They want to win. Yeah. So you either perform, and this goes with all our managers. You know what I mean? And the players as well. If you don't perform, you're out the door. You know what I mean? This ain't no fresh. Yeah, it's ruthless business, man. You know what I mean? They want to win trophies. If you're not good enough, whether you're a player or a manager, get out. Do you know what I mean? And listen, a player, for example, they might get a little bit of time, obviously, that a manager, especially if they're a young player. So someone like Doku, for example, he's not going to be sold in the summer because he's had a maybe below standard year. He's going to be given time, but fundamentally, the decision will come. Whereas if you're not performing, you will leave. And listen. This isn't just how they act in football. They'll make these decisions in all the businesses that they own. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, Sheikh Mansour, he has all these businesses and the investment group. If someone's not performing in a role, and it's only the same that you do if you had a business. If you had a business and someone wasn't performing well, You might say to him, right, you need to up your game, mate, because you're not selling enough, whatever. You know what I mean? And after a couple of months, they're still not selling. What are you going to do? Just keep on saying, oh, don't worry, you know what I mean? On to the next, or like, we'll do it next week. No, sorry, mate, out the door. Because we want to make money. We want to be successful. Football terms, you want to win. So, listen, Mark Hughes is a good manager, man. I do like him, but obviously not quite good enough to manage a team like City, who wanted to go for Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues. And also, well, the one thing I'd say on the money is, right, this is an interesting point of view, and you're probably going to get this now as well.
Yeah.
I remember everyone used to blame us for inflating the market, right? I used to look back and say, hang on a minute. We're having to pay more because clubs know we've got the money and therefore are upping the transfer fee. So whose fault really is that? Is that my club's fault for just having money and being demanded to pay more? Like, for example, the Jolyon Lescott thing. At the time, I think we played like 27 million quid. It was never worth 27 million quid at the time. He was probably a 20 million pound player. But they made us pay 27 million quid because they knew we had the money and City wanted the player. Now, City could have, the answer to that question could be, well, you should have pulled out. We could have pulled out the deal, but it would have happened with the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. So we either spend the money and overpay, knowing that we're overpaying, but what you're going to do, or just don't sign anyone. So I look at these clubs sometimes, especially if fans of the smaller clubs, the teams that we were buying off, and say, you inflated the market by spending too much money, and went, well, hang on a minute, you were the ones who demanded the money that was over just because you knew we had it in the first place. It's similar to when Barcelona sold Neymar for 220 million quid, and everyone known that Qatar had just dumped 220 million pound in the bank account. So then when they went knocking on the door for Ousmane Dembele at Borussia Dortmund, they went, all right, we know you got 220 million in the bank, lads, because we've seen the check be deposited because it was leaked on Twitter, 140 million. And then what are Barcelona meant to do? Go away. He's only worth 80. Say, yeah, we know. But you've got 222 million there, so we're increasing the value. So I always thought to myself, I didn't really agree too much with that. Yes, obviously we played a part by spending the money, but you were the ones demanding the money because we had the money in the bank. So I don't know. I didn't really agree fully with that.
I never saw. I don't know about you guys, but I never saw Man City inflating the market. In my opinion, I was going to refer to the Neymar deal as the inflated market because I don't think the market, the transfer market's been the same since that Neymar deal took place, and I always assume that was the big kickoff. But that's it.
Yeah, no,
from LB. I think it's a fair point.
Yeah, no, look, and someone has actually said in the chat as well that Harple said it was Chelsea before that again, like with Abramovich, and then what they were doing in the market and buying up all around them as well. So it for me, I remember the whole go back to the beginning again, Robinho on transfer deadline day. That was like when transfer deadline day was you couldn't miss it. Like it was that was like Jim White and the yellow tie and blah blah blah. But all good times. But it was interesting, and us sitting with Mike Ashley and just thinking, oh, imagine if we could get something like that going. It'd be amazing. So it took us a long time to get there, and it's taken us a while to get up and running as well. But we'll get into that in a minute. Definitely,
and of course, at that point, I made a note actually because he had Mark Hughes had a 47% win ratio, which is with that level of squad is crazy. Like to have that, I know he said he was a good manager, but I just saw that and I just thought I was interesting.
He drew a lot of games. He drew a lot. That was his problem. I don't know how many he actually lost, but he just drew so many matches. Like it was kind of crazy. But like I say, he was a good manager. Like clearly, you don't manage as many clubs as he's done if you're not a good manager. You know what I mean? Bags of experience. But I just think that City at that time was a step too far. And of course, as well, you look at the players that we had in the team and like the egos that we had. Like it must have been pretty difficult to manage that and manage all those sort of players. He's obviously not managed those caliber of players in the past either, so it was a new challenge for him. So listen, he wasn't the best manager in the world, but reflecting back, he did an okay job. I'm not going to sit here and slag the guy off, even though he's ex-United. You know what I mean? I thought he done all right.
So if I ask you the question, is Eddie Howe our Mark Hughes? And the reason why I say that is because there's a number of Newcastle United fans on social media that certainly recently in this season have referred to Eddie Howe as sort of our version of Mark Hughes. Like with me saying that to you, LB, would you agree with that comment? Would you agree that Eddie Howe is our sort of Mark Hughes in that respect, and that sometime in the near future we're going to move him along and get a higher profile manager?
Possibly. He's definitely a better manager than Mark Hughes. I think that we all agree on that. But I remember having this debate with you, Pete, earlier on in the season, and you was a bit touchy about this subject, because my point on Eddie Howe is, and this is going back to the start of the season, is that it's unlikely that he will be at Newcastle for the long term, right? And why did I say that? Well, the long term for Newcastle United involves Champions League qualification at a very minimum year on year, getting to the last stages of the Champions League year on year, because this is what your owners will expect in future years, and competing for Champions Leagues and Premier Leagues. So the fact that I said that wasn't because I think Eddie Howe is a poor manager. It's because, are you really telling me that this guy who managed Bournemouth for 10 years and then went to Newcastle and done an okay job, well, did a good job at that point, is going to turn out to be basically a world-class manager? Because to do what I've just said, only world-class managers, only Carlo Ancelotti, only the Klopps, only the Pep Guardiolas. These are the managers that get to those levels year on year. And this is where your owners want you to be. So I think he's obviously better than Mark Hughes, but it was always the higher probability that he would only be there for a shorter period of time than maybe some people would like. Just because it would be just kind of crazy for this guy to come through Bournemouth and then all of a sudden take you to the places that these Saudis want you to be. Now, if he does it, unbelievable. But it's just unlikely that Eddie Howe is going to be that guy. So it was always, for me, this was always going to happen, where he was probably going to leave at some point. Obviously, I know he's not left yet, but yeah, that's just the way I saw it. That was just the way I saw it, that it's unlikely that this guy's going to turn out to be a world-class manager, which is what your owners want.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. But before I respond to Obi on that, because we did get into that earlier on in the season, Daz, what are your thoughts on what LB said in regards to Eddie Howe?
Well, for me, like, wasn't Shinawatra who brought in Hughes, so they didn't appoint Hughes City at the time. So for me, I could see Eddie Howe, still have hopes that Eddie Howe could be our Mancini and getting our first trophy. City, we will get into this as well, but City picking up the FA Cup in 2010-2011 season after a 35-year wait. I still hold hopes for Eddie Howe to bring that first trophy to Newcastle, but so it's at this moment in time, it's not looking great. But I think he can turn it around with the big summer. Even though he wasn't giving much away and playing it down of what we could do in the summer today in the press conference, but I hope he's still trying to bluff on that one.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think, from my stance at the time, LB was very much that the owners were happy with him. They wanted him to be, and they saw him as a long-term manager, and still do, in fact, even after the defeat on Monday, where a lot of fans were calling for him to be removed. I just think you talked about, and you listed a number of top managers: Ancelotti, Klopps, Pep Guardiola's. They're the elite of the elite, and they're for a reason. And I'm not saying Eddie Howe's going to get to that point, but like with any manager, I think my argument at the time is that any manager, to be able to reach that point, needs the opportunity to reach that point, because
of course you've got to be given the opportunity. But the point is, could you really see Eddie Howe doing what you think these owners want him to do? That's the question that I was asking myself at the time, and the answer that I came to would be, it's highly unlikely that is going to be the case. Not it's just because it's just like I say, if you just look at it, like, take a step back, are you really telling me that this guy who managed Bournemouth for a decade and then has gone to Newcastle is going to turn out to be this world-class manager that the owners are looking for? I just think it's unlikely. Could he do it? Yeah, of course he could. And obviously last year, what you did last year, qualifying for Europe, suddenly beating PSG this year 4-1, suddenly going, hang on, this could be the one this could be the blue moon scenario where the guy's just absolutely unreal, and he turns out to be the next Pep. But honestly, is that likely to happen? Probably not.
No, I think that's fair. But I do think that there is a chance that he could bring silverware to the club.
Of course they could. I mean, you should have won the final last year against United. I know I keep reminding you of this every time I speak to you, but I mean, you were the better. But I predicted that would happen. I keep saying that. I predicted that you'd be the better team. Well, you was the better team, Daz, in that final. But that's what United want you to do. They want you to be the better team because then they'll get you on the break. United are a very weird team to play against because the better you are, the more it plays into their hands by hitting you on the break with the likes of Rashford, with the likes of all the fast players, and that's exactly what happened. The thing that I'd say with Eddie Howe, because I obviously don't know your guys' position on it, but I think he deserves another year. But this is where the ruthlessness has to come into it. It's set very, very, very clear and strong targets. If you improve that squad in the summer, which I'm pretty sure you will do, you've got in my opinion, the second best striker in the division. You've still got Bruno. Obviously, I know there's rumours about him all the time, but you still got him. You got Tonali coming back. Joe Linton is a fantastic player. Your defence is strong, and you're gonna improve on that. You got Harvey Barnes, the lad from Everton, like some fantastic players. If you improve on that squad, it's very simple. Champions League, or you're gone. And it's not like, and I know people get attached to the manager. Of course you do, but at the end of the day, like, are you just gonna keep giving him chance after chance? This year's been a disaster. He's giving you some good moments in terms of the PSG games, but it has been an absolute disaster. Where you are in the Premier League is a disaster. And I know people will talk about the injuries. I'm sorry, the injuries for me shouldn't be as bad as where you are in the league. Yeah, maybe you could be maybe 7th or something or 6th or whatever, but you shouldn't be where you are. And then you look at how you performed in Europe. I know it was his first time there, but it was still really naive. Get back in the Champions League, or we'll find a manager that will. Because ultimately, that's what I think these owners will be about. I think he deserves the opportunity, in my opinion, to have next year. And I know some maybe Newcastle fans will disagree who already want the change, but I feel from an outsider he deserves one more year. But it's not like a phase approach like Arteta. Yeah, it's very clear. Get Champions League next season. I'm afraid we're going to say you took us as far as you can and we'll get a new manager.
I'd agree with that. I'd give him next year, given the next summer transfer window, and assuming that there'll be 5 places in the Champions League next season, then yeah, it's Champions League or bust. We'll have to move on. There's a project here, and he needs to deliver. You give him the blip, but then it's show us the results.
Yeah, no, it's a tough job at the top of the Premier League. It is, and you've got to have the best to stay there. The one thing I'll say is that I think maybe to Eddie Howe's defence, injuries and all that aside, could and would some of those elite top managers be able to still achieve Champions League football and do what they needed to do a second year in, with the likes of Dan Burn for a second year, Jacob Murphy for a second year, Miggy, who's not had his purple patch that he had last season. You're looking at some of these players. Martin Dubravka playing in goal. I don't rate him personally. I don't think he's a good goalkeeper. He's had some odd games, decent saves, but he's just not good enough for this level. Could an elite manager still got these guys who have played regularly, particularly recently, still playing at the top level with all the injuries added into it as well? I'm not quite sure, and I think I agree with you boys. I think he does deserve next season. He deserves having a full squad to choose from, having everyone fit and firing. Tonali being back is going to be massive because I think he's a top player, and then being able to sign 4 or 5 top players, which I think we will in the summer. I think we'll go out and sign 4 or 5 top players. At that point, I think it's fair. Go get us the Champions League again. And if you don't, we'll invest on money in a manager that's going to do it. I think
you can't sit around forever in it with this. Like, you've got United are 6th right now. Yeah, these guys spend so much money, right? That they're always going to be at the top, and obviously they're a huge club, biggest club in England, so they're always going to be attractive to managers and players, no matter how bad they are. Villa are going to go from strength to strength, and they look like they've got a really stable environment, and of course they've got a top class manager. City are hopefully not going anywhere, and Arsenal don't look like they're going anywhere at the moment either. So you can't sit around. For me, it's a case of being ruthless but fair. Give him a year. next year with hopefully a full squad without getting too many injuries like you have had this year, strengthen in the summer transfer window, and it's simple: get top 4 or you're gone. Like you can't just keep on giving him year after year. Like, this is not what the owners are in this business for. These owners are not here to be like, oh, don't worry, like it's a 5-year project. No, like they want to win, they want to succeed, and of course they're going to back the manager and say, yo, we're in it for the long term. Of course they are. What else are they going to say? They're not going to come out and say Champions League next year, Eddie, or you're out publicly, are they? They're going to back him and say we're backing the manager.
No, fair play.
Pete, just go to LB 1988, who says, "How are Man United where they are in the league?" And the puking emoji. Agree with that? And cheers to donation, LB 1988.
Quality. Look, we'll move on. We'll talk about your big season, 2010-2011. You won the FA Cup. You finished, I believe, in 3rd position, which got you Champions League for the first time. I think, Daz, you got a picture of the FA Cup winning in this season.
Yes. I'll lead up to that, Pete, because these are their signings that season with Mancini in place at this stage as manager. So David Silver, he did all right for you. So did Yaya Toure, and Boateng wasn't a bad player either. But and this is the squad. You'll notice an Adam Johnson in there as well. Newcastle fans saying nothing there. But not a bad squad. And Tevez, when he arrived in Manchester, remember that billboard? I love that one. That was a nice one. But yeah, this is you guys winning the FA Cup after 35 years. Without silverware, you claimed it that year, your first trophy to set you on the road. And ironically, we play you in the FA Cup tomorrow. But that was your stepping stone into what you are now, I guess.
Yeah. And I think you need to win that trophy as soon as possible. Yeah, I mean, and I think that takes a lot of pressure off the managers and it's sort of, because here's the thing, like, you guys are starving for a trophy just like we were, just like loads of clubs are. You know, I was speaking to Billy off 12-Man podcast, a Villa fan, and I don't think they won a trophy since '97. So, you know, if you can win a trophy early on in the ownership, we all get it, right? Especially with FFP and all these regulations now, you need Champions League football for the money, right? We all know that. But fans, as football fans, whilst we like seeing our teams in the Champions League, right? I'm pretty sure you guys want to see your team lift a trophy. Rather, you can play Champions League every year, unless you're winning it. You'd rather see your team lift a trophy. So you need, but as fans, we understand that they need the Champions League revenues. So if they can win a trophy early on, I think fans are more open if the manager rests players in the domestic cups. And maybe gets knocked out to get the Champions League if you win the trophy. I think this is why Spurs fans struggled with Postecoglou earlier in the year when he rested the players against Fulham in the Carabao Cup and they got knocked out. Because it's like, we've got no European Cup this year because they weren't in it. And you just got us knocked out against Fulham in the Carabao Cup because you played a weakened squad. That's why they can't accept it. Whereas if you lads can win a trophy, a domestic cup, and because, at the moment, I feel like Newcastle are fighting on all fronts. And you've not got the squad to fight on all fronts. And that's, maybe part of the reason why you struggle with maybe injuries, because you're playing the same players so much. If you can win a trophy earlier on, then maybe Eddie Howe can be, Carabao Cup. Say he wins the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup this year, yeah? Well, say the FA Cup because Carabao Cup's already done. Maybe next year, he can be like, right, I'm going to rest players in the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup early on and really focus on the league and the Champions League. Now, of course, at the time, you guys doing your match reactions, if you're going to be annoyed that you've been knocked out of the domestic cups. But if you've just won the cup this year, if you've just won the FA Cup and you understand that he's trying to do successful in the Champions League, he's trying to get you out the group stages, he's trying to get you into the knockout rounds of the Champions League, he's trying to get you back into the Champions League and finish inside the top 4, you'll be more open to that idea because you've already won a trophy. Where you're not going to be open to that idea is if you sat here and you've still not won a trophy in 30-odd years and you're like, why are you disrespecting this? But then that's where it's catch-22 because now he's got to play all these players and he's not got the squad to do it. So you guys need to win a trophy ASAP because then you can start focusing on what actually matters, build the club up, invest in the squad, and then eventually you get to the point like City are in, where you've got the squad and you've got the manager and you can compete on all fronts. That didn't happen overnight. You know what I mean? Like that didn't happen overnight. It takes time, but you really need to. And I think, again, not to bring it back to last year, but I am going to. That's why the game United really, really hurt you guys, because if you would have won that, I think he could have took the foot off the gas in the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, and really just focused on the league and the Champions League. And in fact, with all the injuries that you've had, that probably would have a massive benefit. And you guys probably would have accepted that because you've already won a trophy. You would have like, yeah, it's okay. So it's massive. You've got to get that silverware.
But then we wouldn't have knocked you out of the League Cup, though. LB,
listen, yeah, but I knew that was as soon as the draw came out. I said we're losing. I went to the game actually. It was only first or second game I've been to this season, but I went to the game. I knew we was going to lose. I said to Peter, we're losing this game because I knew because Pep's had enough with the Carabao Cup. Guy don't care about it now. I think he won it 4 years in a row or something, and I think he just went, this is shit now, isn't it? I mean, let's focus on the Champions League that we've still not won after a decade. So. And eventually we won it. We won the Champions League, but yeah, he won it. He won 4 in a row, and then just thought we really need to focus on that Champions League.
Imagine being like that, Daz, with a trophy. We've won it too many times. Fuck it, like we don't need it anymore.
Easy on the show, talking about things like that.
But that's the thing, like because he's winning Premier Leagues and he's winning Champions Leagues. When he inevitably throws the Carabao Cup games, which he has done for the last couple of years. I don't sit there and rage. I obviously have a bit of a moan after the game, as you'd expect, being match reaction or whatever. Like you know what I mean, a bit annoyed, but like, you sleep on it and you're like, right, that's done. We move on to the Premier League. We move on to the Champions League, which is ultimately the trophies that they want to win. But you can only do that if you're actually successful and you win trophies. If you don't, then obviously you're gonna kick off because you shouldn't be disrespecting the trophy. That's how the game works.
And that's I think why Eddie Howe went gung-ho in all 4 competitions, because he needs it's that need to win a trophy, and it's a case of whichever one's going to come sooner, like that's the one he'll go for. And that's why he played, to be fair, he didn't play the strongest team. He did play a weakened team. We had flipping Dummett at the back, for God's sake.
That game, yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did play a weakened team and we still managed to win it, but I think he took it more seriously as we went on, and particularly because of the injuries, we had to play certain players. But no, I think that's a fair point. We do need to win it. We do need to win the trophy, and I think, honestly, I think FA Cup, Carabao Cup will be massively on the agenda next year, regardless of whether we get Europe or not. The only way I think it will change, and Daz, we've talked about this before. I think you will agree with this, is that if we get the Conference League. If we end up finishing 7th or 8th, depending on what it takes to qualify for that, I think that will change. And I think he'll go for that because, as you can see last season, West Ham winning it. As you can see this season, Villa, arguably the only team that could have probably stopped them this season was Ajax, and they just literally wiped the floor with them. Like, so they're going to the final. They're going to win the trophy. I'd be absolutely stunned if they don't. And so therefore, us finishing in that position gives us the opportunity to do exactly what you've just said, is that try and go all the way and win that competition. So that's the big one there. If we get Europe next season, we get the Europa Conference. That's the only thing that will maybe change Eddie Howe's approach. He may well play the kids or the young players in the Carabao Cup for that reason. We did win the Saudi Cup, yeah. they made us celebrate it like we had won like a major
the World Cup.
Yeah, the way they celebrated it for sure. But look, going to fast forward a little bit, LB, because I know we've covered those bits, but and like great topics as well. Obviously, you guys then went on to win the league the year after.
Aguero!
Yeah, the Aguero moment. We brought Aguero in. He does the business. He wins you the trophy in year 4, I believe, of your kind of trajectory. That must have been just like amazing for you guys to win that trophy for the first time. Put yourself on there and to topple Man United as well.
Yeah. Again, it's sort of like realization that it's actually happening and it's real. You know what I mean? And that day was insane. It was a crazy day. And listen, it was great, and we had some great players in that team. And I think again, this is where it gets a little bit more difficult nowadays, because if you look back at some of the fees that we paid, I know maybe they were big at the time, but like David Silva, 20 odd million. You know what I mean? Like, and look at Aguero. You know what I mean? Aguero, by the way, like there was other strikers out there that were great at the time. The striker, like you're lucky really that you've got someone like Isak, because if you're a club now that needs a striker, I mean the striker market is just appalling. It's absolutely appalling right now. It's on its arse. But obviously, I mean, I think the whole football market at the moment has fell off a little bit. But at the time, there was the players available. So yeah, football's difficult now to. People always talk about buying success. I think football's more difficult now to buy success than it ever has because the players aren't there. Furthermore, teams don't need the money. Do you know what I mean? Like it was like when someone like Billy speaks on Douglas Luiz and says, "Well, how much would you sell Douglas Luiz for?" And he quotes 100 million. And everyone laughs. But at the end of the day, Villa don't need 50 million. Do Villa need 50 million? They don't need 50 million. So, No. I'm talking in terms of actual money. In terms of FFP rules, obviously that's slightly different. I'm talking just in terms of do they actually need
cash?
Call that cash. Like 15 years ago, a club going to it, like obviously the owners weren't as rich. Some of the owners in the league were just millionaires and not billionaires. If someone come with 10, 15, 20 million, they'd be like, oh yeah. Look at Wolves, man. Like these sort of clubs, like they don't need 50 million, 60 million. That's nothing to these owners. That's nothing to these clubs. What they want, if they're going to sell, they're going to sell it for 100. So I feel that like buying players now is even more tricky. And this is where the big scouts, the best scouts, I think are going to be handsomely rewarded, because if you can pick up your Julian Alvarez's for 15 million quid, your Manuel Akanji's for 15 million quid, your Nathan Ake's for 40 million quid, these are the players that win you the league. Because that's typically where your squad's built up of. Because if you go and do what Chelsea did and spend 100 million quid on every player, look where they are. So I think that it's a tricky situation to build a club now. And I do feel like, say a club like let's have a look at the lower league. Say a club like Forest or something was bought by like a billionaire or something like that. Like it would be more difficult, I think, to build them up to a top team than it was for City, because the players aren't there. Yeah. Like we've got David Silva from Valencia, man. You think David Silva would be at Valencia today? No, he'd be at a top club by the time he's 2021. That's just a fact. All of a sudden, he's worth 100 million quid. So football's more tricky these days, I think.
Yeah, definitely. The market's completely different now. It's changed massively. But you guys had that team that won the league. I want to fast forward here, and I've not gone back because we were going to have a look at the comparisons between 10-11 team and ours currently, and we can do that really briefly. But I'm going to move on to a point that a lot of Newcastle fans are talking about at the moment, and these are not sort of player related topics. I think it was in 2013 you kind of formulated your multi-club model. With the City Football Group. You brought that together with the likes of New York City, FC, Melbourne City. Is it Yokohama Mariners as well? You brought them together along with the Man City women's team as well. That's a big thing for us at the moment. And actually the owners have been looking at that multi-club model, and they've been looking, I think, as you mentioned, France, and I know they've been looking in Belgium, South America. Did that change anything for you guys as a club when you went to that sort of model? Did it affect you as a fan in any way, shape, or form, or was it just
affect me as business as normal? Nah, not at all, man. Not at all. No, not as a fan. Why would it affect me? Like, with all due respect, my owners buying the Japanese club. Like, I'm not going to suddenly start watching them or caring about them. Like, we're all at individual clubs. You know what I mean? And so no, did it have business benefits? Probably. Yeah, I mean, they don't do it for free, do they? They've done it to earn some cash, or they obviously think that the scouting, whatever. But as a fan, nah, like, don't affect me one little bit, to be honest with you. Like, the only thing I would say is, like, if you see that, like, Melbourne City win the league or something, you'd be like, oh, decent. But that's pretty much it. It's like a 5-second. Oh, that's good. Now, like, normally I would have no care in the world about the Australian league, because why would I? I'm not Australian. But like, if they won the league, I'd be like, oh, positive. But like that's as far as it goes. But I'm sure Melbourne City fans are the same. Melbourne City fans who don't support City or don't care about the Premier League, which there probably will be some Australians who just care about their own domestic league, they'll probably be the same. They'll probably be like, oh, City won the league, nice, they're owned by the same people. But they're not going to start celebrating and watching all that games unless they're actual City fans. So, but it's quite funny, actually, because the guy who masterminded this whole thing, Ferran Soriano, he wanted to do this at Barcelona, and Barcelona said no to him. They said, no, it wouldn't work. And now look at one club and look at the other one. So, yeah, they probably should have listened, but they wanted to stick with that basketball and stuff. So,
well, they should have listened. I mean, look now you got all over the globe. You've expanded even more so now. So you, every area you can see on there, you picked up a club in some way, shape or form. So you're not doing something too bad. However, the one that's even more important to that is the City Football Academy. How did that regenerate the city? Because I know you've talked about it before. I think when I've asked you the question previously. Now, how did that regenerate the city? How did that improve things for the players, the club in general? Because it looks amazing. Like this is the kind of thing that our owners want to do, and they're currently actively trying to look at plots, land, how they can put that together. How big was that moment when that City Football Academy opened up, mate?
Yeah, again, I mean, look at the stadium, the academy stadium there, with the women playing as well as the academy team plays in. I think it's like a 5,000 seater stadium. Yeah. I mean, that's a bigger stadium than maybe some conference leagues or maybe even some League Two. I don't know, but again, like the thing is, I think a lot of people forget about when this FFP thing was brought in. And obviously, it was brought in to stop City, which we all know. But then people who support the cartel 3 clubs will be like, no, it wasn't. But it clearly was, right? Let's just get it. And again, just FYI, I don't have a problem with them. I get why they did it. If I was a business owner and our business opened up across the street, it was going to take my customers, and then someone come to me and went, oh, we can actually stop them from taking your customers if we do this. Of course, I'm going to do it if it's legal, right? So it was obviously designed to stop City. So City obviously would have had a look at this and gone, right, well, where is football going? Where is the landscape going? To say, right, well, you've got to generate income. And this is funny enough where we get onto the 115 charges, because you need to generate the income. And they obviously look then at the fact that, well, academy players, if you sell academy players, that goes straight to the bottom line. That's pure profit. That's good for income. That's good for FFP. So City obviously built this academy stadium, and we all know that 99.9% of the players that come through that academy won't play for City, but it's generating us a lot of money, which is what you need to comply with FFP. So it's more of a business thing. You will get the odd one that comes through, very rare, because again, that's just a fact of where you're at. You know what I mean? If you're going for Champions Leagues, you're going for the Premier League, then you're effectively saying you want to be one of the best teams in the world. Well, the only way that academy player is going to break through is if they're one of the best academy players in the world. Again, they're rare to find. So it is more sort of a business thing, but that's what you need to have. You need to have an academy that can produce talent that you can sell to make money to help with the FFP, or the rare occasion actually find a player like Foden or whoever else.
Well, we've started to get a few coming through. Lewis Miley being one of them. To begin with, Elliot Anderson another. So we've had a couple come through recently, but yeah, not churning out anywhere near the amount that you are. But we need the facilities, Daz. And this is what we've been talking about. That training ground before the owners came in was an absolute disgrace. And the fact that now it's been done up, it is in a better state, a much better state. And the players have even said as much of that were there before the takeover. How long do you reckon, Daz, it'll be before you think they'll announce plans for a new training ground?
Yeah, we were kind of talking about before. We kind of said that they might a training ground,
or just an academy, academy training ground. I imagine they'll make it multi, like they'll have it a bit like what Man City have got there. They'll have it all kind of like knitted together. So.
There's so like you're talking through the journey there of Man City, but there's so much still infrastructure wise to look forward to. Like there's the training ground, there's either expanding St James's Park or moving to a new stadium, building a new stadium, and the whole multi-tier multi-club model. This I was expecting this like things like, especially the multi-club model, to kind of be a bit more rapid in this project, but there's so much still to happen. It's you could wake up tomorrow and there could be some announcement on something like that, so it's hard to tell on that kind of side of things. So I don't really know, Pete, but there's a lot to look forward to. But as we said before, and in regards to St James's Park, I imagine it might get if there's some good news, they might release this whatever they're going to do, especially if it's linked to moving ground, building.
LB, how long, if you know, how long roughly did that take to put together?
I don't know, man. I think it might have opened in like 2014, something like that.
Yeah.
So something around that, because I know we were still at Carrington for a while, because all the press used to take photos of all the fights that we used to have in the thing when Mancini was there. So yeah, I'm not sure, but obviously now it's been there. You're getting on a decade, so you are now starting to see the talent come through. Say if we go, say it was there 2014. Let's just say that was when it opened. So you got the 10-year-olds coming through. Well, they're now 10 years on. They're 20. So you started to see these boys come through. these Cole Palmers, these players. Oscar Bob obviously was bought in from Norway, but he was a great player as well. Yeah, obviously you know about him. But yeah, like it was always again, and this is the thing. Like people would say, like after a couple of years of the academy being open, saying, well, where are these players coming through? Like the media was getting onto us, like, where are the academy players? City got no academy players. I was like, only been opened a couple of years, man. This is a long. People think too short term in football, way too short term. They don't think long term enough. But if you actually get a plan together and think long term, that's the way to success at football, man. Because I think the days of short termism is over. I think the day of hiring and firing, Jose Mourinho, Roman Abramovich style ownership, it's over, because you can't do that. Oh, you want a new striker? Oh, well, it's not 30 million anymore for Drogba. It's 150 million for Osimhen.
Yeah.
Like you can't. Oh, you want an attacking midfielder and a defender? You're talking 400 million quid. That's just not feasible anymore. So I think that the only way to succeed in football now is to have a proper plan, to have a board who know what they're doing, to have an academy that can deliver talent as well as revenues, and to get an insane scouting network. One of the ways that you can do that is by having multi-club, because then you've got people on the ground in all these different areas. And then, of course, at the end of it, having good players on a football pitch and a good manager. But I do genuinely think that the days of those hiring and fire is gone. The one thing I would also say, though, is if you can get to the top, then how do you fall? The only way you can fall is by deviating from the plan. Like, you know what I mean? Because if you're at the top, you've got a great board, you've got great players, you've got a great manager, you've got this scouting system that's actively working. And how does it fall down? It doesn't fall down unless you
dodgy dealings.
Maybe dodgy dealings.
Charges, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But you get what I'm saying, though, don't you? Like, it's not just gonna end. You've got everything in place. Like like Arsenal tomorrow, like next year, aren't just going to finish 6th. They're going to be challenging for the title again.
They could be. They could finish 6th.
I doubt it.
Doubt it.
No, you doubt it. You do doubt it. But like, there are teams that have been up there. Man United have proven it. They finished 2nd one year, finished like 7th or 8th.
Yeah, but no, they're different because they don't have the thing that everything I've just spoke about. Them, they don't have. They didn't have a great board. They didn't have good manager. Yeah, they didn't have a manager who was stable. They didn't have great players. They didn't have the multi-club model with good scouting. Look at the players that were signing. They were signing Zlatan when he was in his 30s, Schweinsteiger when he was in his 30s, Di Maria's, Falcao's. They weren't doing everything that I've just said, and that's why they fluctuated up and down. The reason City have been up at the top, the reason that Liverpool have, despite not doing everything that I've said, and that's probably why they've not been quite as successful, the reason that Arsenal are now doing well is because they have done what I've just said about building the club for the long term rather than the short termism. And that's obviously where United are now going. So within a couple of years, United will now be at the top. And that's why I said to you before, going back to the point about Eddie Howe, is that you guys have to act quickly before everyone else gets into this position. Because as well, by the way, looking at someone like Chelsea, This ain't going to carry on forever, by the way, with Chelsea. They will eventually get it right and understand how the game works. It might take another year. It might not be next year. It might not be the year. But they will eventually get it right. You know what I mean? Because eventually these guys will get the people in the club who can actually run the football club properly. So, yeah, that's where we're at.
Just going back to your academy, LB, for a second, but like you're saying, it's only up and running 3 years or so, but you are selling some of the talent as well, and that's helping towards FFP. Look at Cole Palmer, Alfie Harrison, who came to us. Like there is this deals going on there as well that they're contributing towards your bottom line in FFP PSR capacity, I guess.
Yeah, and again, City knew this. City weren't dumb. Like when they seen the thing, they would have spot. I guess they would have had a meeting and said, right, these are the rules that are coming in place. What do we need to do? So, well, we need to increase revenue. One of the ways you can increase revenue, what's one of the best ways, is to sell academy players because it's all profit. It's great for the books. Okay, well, how can we do that? Let's get a state-of-the-art academy. Let's invest loads of money into academy, which you can do because that if you invest money into infrastructure, that doesn't go towards FFP. So again, that's fine. And then we'll just get a conveyor belt of talent. And as football, and it's actually worked out quite well because as the football player drain, because there is a drain of real talent in football right now, as that amplifies, it gets worse, academy players' value goes up. So it's a win-win-win. You know what I mean? You're getting these players, you're not quite good enough for our first team, so we'll sell you on. Well, football's fell off. There's no good players. You're an average player. You're now worth 25 million. Thanks a lot. Like, it's great stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you sold James Trafford for 20 million. Like, he's never even played a football match for us. We sold the goalkeeper to Forest. Not Forest, sorry, Southampton. The Irish kid. Another 10, 15 million.
Yeah,
Bazuna.
Bazuna. Like, you got to do it. You got to do it.
I know. I think it's a fair point. I think Harrison, you mentioned as well. There's been so many that you've benefited from, and that's what we want to do. That's what the aim is, and it kind of brings me to the next point, really, because obviously, you know, you had Pellegrini. Pellegrini won you the title, but then things dipped off. It turned sour towards the end because he announced that he was leaving, and you knew that Pep Guardiola at that point was going to be coming in. And in 2016, Pep Guardiola came in. And what I want to ask you is kind of like a multi point here, because you brought Pep Guardiola in, but you didn't just bring him in. You brought in the sporting director. You brought Tiki in as well, and he came in not long after him, I believe, as the sporting director. Is that right?
I think he was there before. I'm pretty sure Tiki and the Spanish lads were all there before because that's what we wanted. We wanted to get Pep Guardiola in, but he wouldn't.
You got him first to then get Pep later.
I think Sheik's dream from day one was Pep Guardiola. How do we get Pep Guardiola? Get all these best mates from Barcelona who've all now left. That's a good idea, isn't it? You know what I mean? Also, these people from Barcelona, pretty successful. You know what I mean? They were on the board of one of the most successful clubs ever. And in my opinion, the best football team I've ever watched. For me personally, that Barcelona team under Pep Guardiola. So, get all them in. Then let's get Pep Guardiola. Tiki played with Pep for a time as well. So they're obviously mates. And then eventually, but I watched, I don't know if you've seen the BBC documentary about Pep. It's a really good watch. He just sort of hinted that he wasn't quite ready to come to England at the time, which is why we got Pellegrini. He went to Bayern, but obviously then he didn't have a good run at Bayern. The fans didn't really get onto him. The players thought they were better than Pep Guardiola. It's really interesting watch. I don't know if you've seen it. No,
I've not seen it. No,
should see it, man. In one of the Champions Leagues, I think it was the semi-final against Real Madrid. The players were they did not done too great in the league. I think they were top of the league, but they weren't too great. They weren't like as dominant as they normally were playing Pep ball. Mm. And the players basically said to Pep Guardiola before the Champions League semi-final against Real Madrid, "We want to go back to the way that we played football last year when they just won the treble." Under who was it? Was it Hunkers or whatever he was called? Was it him? He won the treble under with Bayern. So Pep obviously went, well, if you guys want to play that way and you don't want to play my style of football, okay, no problem. Anyway, they went out and got battered off Real Madrid. And apparently all the players since, and in fact, they have come out because on that documentary, Manuel Neuer said after the game, they all just knew that they should have stuck to the plan. They should have stuck to the game plan of believing in the Pep system, and they ended up getting battered off Real Madrid. I think they got beat like 3 or 4-0 or something like that. But yeah, then obviously Pep left Bayern. The fans didn't really. I don't think the fans at Bayern Munich really connected with Pep, and he come to City, where of course we all adored him because we're Man City. Like fucking hell, we got the best manager in the world. I think that's a difference between us and Bayern. Bayern fans didn't look at Pep and gone, "Oh, Pep Guardiola, thank you so much for joining our football club." No, this is Bayern Munich. You just won the treble. You know what I mean? Like it's we're Bayern Munich fans. You're coming here to win us the treble again, mate. And if you don't, you're going. So I think that's why we give him time, because in the first year of Pep Guardiola at City, it wasn't pretty.
Weren't great.
You know what I mean? We got in the top 4 just. We got some big beatings, but we're not going to turn around as City fans and start saying Pep out in his first year when this guy's managed the best team I've ever seen in my life, am I? Do you know what I mean? So that allowed him the time, I think. And people will say, that's because you're a smaller club than Bayern. Yeah, of course we're a smaller club than Bayern. I'm not sitting here saying I'm a bigger club than Bayern, but that benefited us. Whereas maybe it didn't benefit Bayern. Maybe if Bayern, as a board, as a fan base, would have had a different mindset, maybe it would have benefited them more than it benefited us. But of course they didn't. So obviously, yeah, Pep come in and then boom, took him a year to get used to it. I mean, some dodgy decisions, but eventually it all clicked into place.
2 things. Obviously, you mentioned that Tiki came in, and the Foxes confirmed it came in before that as sporting director. Was that crucial for you? And did you have a sporting director before? And the reason why I asked that is because obviously you'll know, because we talked about on 12th Man, the situation with Dan Ashworth going to Man United. Obviously, he's in gardening leave at the moment. We're looking elsewhere. We're apparently one of our front runners is he needs to make sure he pays up. Man United don't get away with this scot-free. And Paul Mitchell has been linked with us, who's got some good credentials. Is it crucial for us to have like a top level sporting director? And how big was Tiki for you when he came in?
Yeah, well, Tiki knows what he's doing, man. Tiki was at Barcelona when they appointed Pep Guardiola as the manager. And if you just think about how big that decision was, Barcelona, because this is another myth that people say, oh, Pep had it easy at Barcelona. No, he did not. No, he did not at all. Rijkaard had proper lost control of the football club. Yeah, it was an absolute mess. And obviously he went, and they appointed a manager in Pep Guardiola that had just won the league with Barcelona B. That's it. That was his credentials. That was his CV. And Tiki obviously seen that this guy knows what he's doing, and he obviously brought through the play. So you've got to have someone who knows what they're doing. I mean, if you look at Man United, for example, there's a brilliant example. Man United spent £1 billion since Fergie left. Why have they not been successful? Because they wasted the money. Who's that down to? That's down to the people that spend the money. It's down to the sporting directors, the people who have that power. If you spend the money wisely, you'll be successful. Because at the end of the day, it's the players on the pitch that win you the trophies. You buy the best players, you get the good players, you'll win stuff. If you waste it, then obviously you won't. And that's what United have done. They've wasted the money. That's where City, to a large degree, have spent the money extremely well. Obviously, you're never going to have a 100% hit rate. You're always going to get the odd flop. But you've got to get someone who knows what they're doing. You've got to get a sporting director who knows the type of players. You've got to get your club playing a certain style of way. So then when you swap managers, it's not, all right, we need to tear it up and start again. It's like, no. This is how we play. These are the players. You're the coach. You coach these players to win football matches. You can't have a manager who comes in and says, right, I want to play 4-3-3 attacking football, passing style. Sack him and then get a manager and go, right, I want to be defensive, Conte style. No, because then you got to swap all the players out. You can't do that, as we've discussed. Players are too expensive to chop and change like that nowadays. So yeah, you've got to get a sporting director that knows what they're doing. You've got to have good scouts, as we spoke about before, so you can identify the good talent, because you're not going to be able to spend £100 million on every player. And if you're building a squad, you do need those 15, 20, 30 million pound players. Obviously getting a sporting director is really, really important. 100%.
So, Daz, is Paul Mitchell our guy? Do you think he's going to come in this summer? Surely he's not going to have, whoever comes in is not going to have an influence on on signings this summer, it's clearly going to be Eddie Howe and his team.
Yeah, no, I see his name being linked, like more widely linked in the last few days. Yeah, whoever does come in, I imagine it might be someone that will have a different remit than Ashworth had, because he was to kind of kick it all off and start. There was nothing there really to work with, so it's maybe someone focused on a particular area of expertise that they may have. So it will be interesting how that plays out. But yeah, as you said, Pete, yeah, the plans for the summer are underway already, and I was laughing earlier to myself when LB was describing how like Man City went all out, bringing in all Pep's buddies from Barca, and they're bringing him in, and the alternative for us are the comparison is we have Matt Ritchie, we bring everything from Bournemouth to Newcastle. So yeah, we need to progress as time goes on.
Yeah, definitely. Look, we're going to get into that sporting director conversation as we get towards the summer, that's for sure. Just a couple of things before we come to sort of predictions, thoughts, and opinions on the game tomorrow. Not that me and Daz want to talk too much about that game tomorrow, but I look at the. This was put up a while back, and this was just an example of your sponsorships in comparison to Newcastle United. And this is the big thing. You talked about it, revenue, getting money in to be able to spend that money and justify that money being spent. That's a massive difference. And obviously, we've got Seller in now, as it says, with a shirt sponsor. But look, you guys are just doubling what we're bringing in. You're eclipsing us at this point in time. Look at Castor, for example, 5 million a year in comparison to that 55 from Puma. That will go up significantly for us, I think, to around sort of 30, between 30 and 40 with Adidas, which is massive for us. But still, we're so far behind. You've got stadium naming rights, campus naming rights, training kit sponsors, all these things that make a massive difference. And it just goes to show how far behind we are. You guys are generating the most of anyone in this country. It's absolutely madness to see. But just on the back of that as well, I just want to ask you the question. For Man City and for Newcastle, LB, what is next for both clubs? And the reason why I say Man City first is because you've lost, or you're losing, is it Omar Barada, who's going to Man United?
Yeah, he's gone. He's already gone.
He's already there. And tonight there was rumours of Jason Wilcox apparently going over to Man United as technical director. So kind of like, obviously we know the talk about the charges. Apparently the date's set next year at some point. But where do you guys go next as a club? Where's your next kind of projection? And where do you see Newcastle United go next?
City is just more of the same. As I said before, like once you've got the structure in place, people will come and go. Managers will come and go. Board directors will come and go. But if you've got the structure in place, you shouldn't be worried about these things. I mean, is it disappointing? Obviously, you'd rather just, when you're winning and you're winning everything, yes, you would rather just everyone stays, but that's just not reality of life. Do you know what I mean? Like, and by the way, Paul Doon in his end-of-year interview last season said, people will leave, executives will leave. Why? Because we've got the best executives in the world. So they will leave because people will pay them more. And we're not just going to, we back our belief, we back our process that we're going to pay people the right amount of money.
Yeah.
And if someone comes calling, it's not a case of, oh, well, they've offered me this to go there because they know I'm mint. You got to pay me the same amount. No. If you want to go, go. Furthermore, people will get promotions like Omar Barada. He's got a promotion at Manchester United. He's gone from, I think he was chief operating officer to CEO. So obviously we can't give him the CEO role because he's already CEO. So he's going to leave. So if you've got the stable environment, there should be absolutely no reason why you start panicking when people leave. That's normal in any job, in any business. People will leave and move on. You got to get the right people in, but they've got the right people in before. So why would they suddenly get the wrong people in? I'm confident that they will do that. So more of the same with Newcastle. It's about building the football club up for every single thing, from getting a new training ground, getting a new academy, building that up, improving the on-field results so you can qualify for Champions League, because that will then bring in the money. Bring in Champions League gets you maybe bigger sponsors. You got, going further in the Champions League regularly will give those sponsors probably more trust, so they'll put more money in. Building your global presence through various different means, pre-season tours, multi-club model, everything. It's about building the club, but it's going to take time. I've told you this many times, isn't it, Pete? That like, if I was a Newcastle fan, yes, okay, like you could be annoyed at like results and that the season's not gone great, but you guys will be successful. You're owned by Saudis, bro. Like, these guys have got the cash. They're going to make you successful. It's probably going to take longer than it took City because the market's changed. It's more difficult to get better players than it was when City were there. As we all know, the talent drain is crazy in football. But it will happen. Yeah. It will happen. So I'd just be enjoy the ride, man. Like, listen, get stressed when you finish bottom of the group, when you should have at least qualified, maybe got Europa League. Maybe get stressed because you're sitting in 10th. But ultimately, like, you are going in the right direction, and you are. You know what I mean? So believe your owners, believe the people that are running the club. If they sack your manager, that's because they don't think he's good enough. If they stick with the manager, it's because they're giving him a chance. They think he is good enough. You got to trust these guys. I trust my guy. I mean, my guy tells me something. I'm not going to sit here and go, I don't think he's right there. Like, no. This guy's just won me the treble, and we're the most successful club in England in the last decade. I'm not going to start questioning him. But like, you guys are in a great position, man. Just enjoy the ride, innit? Like, it's great when you win those Premier Leagues, when you win those Champions Leagues, which you will eventually do. It'll hit like crack, boys. It's a great feeling.
Okay, so do you think we'll be back next year fighting at the top end of the table, Champions League? In your opinion, obviously you don't know who we're going to sign. We don't know who we're going to sign, but you can assume that we're going to get all of our players back fit and firing, ready for next season. If we add to that, do you believe we're going to be back fighting that top four again next season?
I think you'll be in the battle, but I don't think you'll do it. And I think Eddie Howe will be sacked either next season or at the end of it'll either be sacked mid-season or at the end of next season. And then I think you'll make a step up in managerial appointment. And again, that's based on just probability. Like, you're going to have Arsenal up there. You're going to have Liverpool up there. You have City up there. You still got Villa. Spurs, they're looking pretty decent. United will probably improve next year. So I'm looking at this going, it's certainly possible that Newcastle could get in the top four. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying I don't think he manages it as a manager. And I think he probably leaves midway through the season if it's going badly, or at the end of the season, they'll go, we feel that you've taken us as far as you can. It's time for a move. But I think you'll obviously be a lot better than this year. I think you'll finish top 7, top 6 next year, 100%.
And look, and it links back to your journey that we've discussed here. Like, you've had stepping stone players, you've had stepping stone managers. This is definitely a stepping stone season for us. But interesting to hear your points there, LB, on how you think. And I know what you're judging on. You're just looking from the outside, not as engrossed in it as us, and that's how you see it playing out. Still have hope for Eddie though to turn it around and get.
By the way, I want him to do well. I mean, when we don't really get English managers doing well, do it? So yeah. I want him to do well as an English manager. Like I say, is it likely? What will be interesting for you guys is, and you probably got this already a little bit now, but it might amplify next season if things start going well. Is you'll get the fan divides about do we stick with Eddie? Some people will be like. And I see Gally there in the chat saying he come to us when no one else would. We was in a mess. He done really well. And then you'll get some people who saying that's well and great, but how long do we stick with this sort of message before we just go, we need to take that step up? Because you're not the Newcastle of 10 years ago. You are a different football club. You are a club now that's looking to try and get into the Champions League and to win trophies. You're not owned by Mike Ashley no more. You're not trying to stay in the division. You're trying to compete to win silverware. So that's going to be interesting, and you will get into a lot of fan v fan arguments and debates, and at times it might get a little toxic. But like, what can you do? No one's right. No one is right and no one is wrong. It's all personal opinion. One fan can say, I want to stick with Eddie, he's done really well. One fan will say, I want to make the next step. No, neither of them are wrong, neither of them are right. It's about, just people's opinion. But you will get that, because I've had it say. And even now I still get it. You know what I mean? When things aren't going quite well and people go, oh, look at where we come from. It's like, that's all well and good. You know what I mean? But we're not that club anymore. Yeah. And it's difficult for some people to make that transition.
Well, we're having the same issue with the stadium, St. James's Park, because there's talk about us moving to a brand new stadium somewhere else, a slightly different location within the city, not right at the top of the hill, not right in the city as it is right now. Some people are going, don't want to move, want to stay at St. James's Park. Completely understand why. The history, it's iconic within English football. But some are saying, you know what? We need to move on. We need to move to a bigger stadium to facilitate all the fans. Not everyone can access the game week in, week out, and we need a stadium befitting of that next step. So it's already kind of starting. It is, and people are kind of having those conversations. But that's an interesting conversation. If Eddie Howe does go, who next? I mean, Eddie Howe will get next season anyway. But it is probably for another time an interesting conversation there in terms of who comes next. Because like you said, LB, and you're absolutely right, we've said it on Loaded so many times, the striker pool, for example, is so flat at the moment. There is nobody out there. And if you're getting somebody, you're overpaying, like you mentioned earlier on with Osimhen. I think it's the same with managers. I don't know. I might be wrong there. I think it's the same with managers.
No, it is. It is.
There's that huge, massive pool of quality managers out there where you could go, you know what, anyhow, see you later. Let's get him in because he's ready. Like Liverpool, I think, are quite lucky because they've got the Xabi Alonso maybe transition.
But if he doesn't go there, though, if he goes to Bayern, they're in the same position as everyone else.
Yeah, well, they're screwed. They're absolutely screwed. It's really interesting because a lot of other fans are properly going in on Liverpool now. I don't know if you've seen it. Daz or LB on socials, because there are so many Liverpool fans now that are talking about Xabi Alonso as if he's already there. They're already talking about his style of play and what he's going to do with certain players. And they're making the same mistake as what they did with Jude Bellingham. They already talked like he was there, their player. And he ended up at Real. Could it? I don't know. But it's going to be an interesting one. Look, I'd be rude, LB, not to ask you this question before we kind of wrap things up. The charges. I've seen you on other shows, whether it's Terry, whether it's 12th Man, wherever you are, never a foul, and you do get pelters with this 115 charges, show in, show out. Fair play to you for taking it on the chin and hitting straight back. Where is your mind now? Is it in the same as what it was those weeks ago than when we chatted on away days, or is your mind changed? Is something else happened that's had your kind of opinion changed? Where are you at with it all, mate?
I still think they'll be found not guilty of the main charges. I still believe they'll be found guilty of not cooperating, and there'll be a heavy fine for that. But again, if you just understand what they're alleging, you just be like, they're going to have some mad proof to get a guilty verdict on this. They're alleging fraud of the most enormous scale. You know, they're talking a decade's worth of accounts that would have to be restated, and I just don't see how they're going to have the evidence to do that. You know, what evidence are they going to have? Because Cass didn't get the evidence. So what evidence are they going to have? How can you prove, that Sheikh Mansour put money into the Etihad deal, and the money didn't come directly from Etihad? Because that's effectively what they're saying on some of the charges. They're the main ones. There are other charges, but they're the main ones. How are you going to prove that? Have you got a bank account? Have you got a bank statement from Etihad Airways showing money going in from from Sheikh Mansour. And by the way, Etihad Airways, by the way, you know they're about to list on a stock exchange. So again, like, are you alleging that this company who's about to list on a stock exchange has been involved in fraud? I mean, again, it's just kind of like, could it have happened? 100%. Maybe it did happen. No one knows if it happened. The only people that know whether it happened or not are the people that have been alleged to be involved. But if it did happen, you're talking about one of the biggest scandals, not just in football, but in business history, man. So
And watch that documentary.
If it happened, then fucking hell, fair play. I mean, it's crazy, and it's mad how they got this far without getting caught in the first place. But I just think that, like, listen, man, that's crazy. And of course, the club are saying they're innocent. I mean, because this is another thing. Like, when people talk about the Everton charges, Everton admitted guilt. Everton said they were guilty. They disputed some things and said, "Oh, we don't think this is right." But ultimately, they said, "Yeah, we breached the rules." Yeah. City from day one have said we are innocent. So listen, like I say, for me, I think they'll be found not guilty. The burden of proof. Remember, again, people say, "Why don't City just do this? Why don't City just do that?" The onus isn't on City. The onus is on the Premier League to prove their case. They're the ones that have brought the charges. It's not up to City to go, no, it's not up to us to prove our innocence. It's up to the Premier League to prove we're guilty. That's how this shit works, yeah? When you talk about, like, courts and that, which effectively this is what it is. So, listen, I've always said from day one, I don't know whether we're innocent or guilty. And no one does. People can say, "Oh, there's 115, there's no smoke without fire." That's just a load of nonsense and waffle, yeah? The only people that know whether we're innocent or guilty are the people that were involved in these deals. By the way, Omar Barada, who's now at Manchester United, handled some of our sponsors. So are they taking him? He literally handled some of our sponsorships. So that again, people say, "Oh, he's leaving City. It's about to fall down." Well, actually, you could look at the flip side. Like, are United really going to hire a guy who was involved in this if they genuinely think that we're guilty? Probably, because it will.
Or not run them.
Yeah, but I just my opinion is I don't know whether it's not guilty. No, I don't think anyone does unless you were there at the time doing the deals. Do I think we'll be found innocent or guilty? I think we'll be found innocent because I don't think they're going to have the proof required to get a guilty verdict. But we will get found guilty of not cooperating because that's what we got for at CAS. And yeah, and then what City do in response to that will be interesting because I don't think City fans would accept just City going, "Oh, it's all done now, we'll move on."
The one thing that nobody's talked about, and maybe they have, but I certainly haven't seen this, is what if Man City get off the charges? And the reason why I say that is, how does this make the Premier League look? How does the Premier League stand after this? They've gone all in for years now in pointing the finger at Man City. If Man City get proved innocent on all those charges, how does that make the Premier League look?
Well, it would be shambolic, you know what I mean? And like I say, from a City point of view, City fans have took a lot of shit over this. Everyone calls us cheats. Everyone does the 115 thing. Like we get a lot of shit. I don't think City fans are going to accept the club just going, "Oh, we got not guilty. Great. Let's just move on with the Premier League in a more positive way." Because that's what they did with the CAS verdict with UEFA. When we got not guilty at CAS, basically they released a statement. It was like a joint statement with UEFA. They basically said, "Right, put this behind us, lads. UEFA are chilling now. We're not looking at City no more. We've done it all. Not guilty. Let's move on." I don't think that will wash with the City fans with the Premier League if we get that not guilty verdict. I think City fans are gonna be like, we've took too much shit over this. Like, you got to do something about it. Like, what's going on here? This has been 2 years, but obviously it's been going on a long time. Everyone in the media said, like, and this is the thing: if we get not guilty, they're going to be a man on this planet who thinks we're not guilty. Everyone's just going to say, "Oh, we paid them off," or "We got off with it on a technicality," like they did with the CAS verdict. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how it's going to end up, but the whole thing's a joke. I don't know if you've seen this latest news on the Everton appeal case, because they've had to do it expedited, because if it wasn't expedited, it wouldn't be done by the end of the season. But they've literally left themselves 2 weeks to the end of the season to get this appeal verdict in. So if there's any delays at all, the appeal decision for this new Everton charge will be after the season ends. So you could have a club relegated.
Ridiculous.
It's a load of shite, man.
Yeah,
it's
it is.
just a load of
ruins
shite.
ruins the competition as well. Like, it's all on the last day of the season. If it's very close, it's all about who's going to get relegated, who's going to drop on the faces of the fans and so on. We all experienced it ourselves. So yeah, it just takes away from the whole competition. Like the season be over, and then they decide who's going to be relegated based on these ridiculous.
And this adds to the point that I'm making about if Man City win their case, and obviously that's next season. But if this happens and it runs after the season, right, and it affects someone's relegation or not, they've got reactions after the season. They've got people that think they're going to lose their jobs and all the rest of it. The mental health aspect that it's going to have on not just the players and the clubs, but the staff. The tea ladies, the people in the canteen, all the rest of them that could potentially lose their jobs off the back of that. And then Man City win their case. Like I think the Premier League's power stance is gone. It's gone. Like who in their right mind is going to take the Premier League seriously if they come back with a profit and sustainability with the club again? They're going to go, nah, forget that. You've got loads of things wrong. Like, how can they hold their position as authority? They can't, because they have to win this. And I think this is why I think some fans outside of Man City are adamant that they are going to be not that all the 115 charges are going to go against Man City, because I think the vast majority of them, in my opinion, will be a non-factor. However, I think fans are convinced, LB, that it is going to be this way because of that particular reason. The Premier League have to win. They've gone way too long.
Oh, I agree. I think they do have to win. Yeah, you can't bring charges of that scale and not win. Do you know what I mean? Like if you bring, we think you've breached FFP by 5 million. I know it's only 5 million, but rules are rules. It is what it is. This is your punishment. You can appeal and then we'll hash it out. Yeah, bit like Everton. Oh, like they felt like it was this. You felt it was like, you broke the rules. Appeal. We reduce it to 6 points. We're done. Right. That's all right. Yeah. Like I know Everton fans are fuming about it, but like at the end of the day, you did break the rules. These are different. You're literally accusing a club of fraud, man. Like you can't do that unless you're right.
Yeah.
So like I say, it'll be interesting to see what happens, man. And if we get not guilty, bro, I'm partying. If we get guilty, then we're gonna have to hold that. That'll be very interesting conversations. Obviously, we've got to read the full document. That people don't read anything anymore. You know what I mean? It does help if people read actual documents, especially if they want to talk about it. I'll read it. But if the evidence is there that they've cheated, then it'll be interesting. The one thing I would say is it's interesting because it's not. It's people say, oh, it's cheating, but we still spent the same amount of money as Man United. So it's not the same as like you spent this much money, and we weren't allowed to spend. Like we've spent the same. It's not this. You know, this is why the rules are very crap, because and you hear United fans talk about all the time. You were financially doped. You spent the same amount of money as you. Like we spent the same. So why is that a problem? Like what? We didn't cheat our way to the trophies on the pitch. Like there might have been some BS rule to say that we couldn't have spent that money. It's not like we spent more money than you. Like we spent the same amount of money since Fergie left. So what's the problem? The problem is you want to be at the top because you want to win all the trophies and you want to stay there. And that's what obviously the FFP restrictions do. So I certainly wouldn't take. I certainly wouldn't be of the opinion that we cheated. It's more of like a off-field breach, because, like I say, we still spent the same amount of money as United. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, it's weird, man. But listen, these charges are crazy. I think one thing that we all agree with is that it needs to be resolved soon, because it's no good for no one having it sort of handled. And you know what? Again, like another bit of stuff that winds me up that people say is, like, why is it taking so long? Like City are dragging it out. Well, City have obviously got the best lawyers, right? As you would. Again, this is another thing. City have got the best lawyers. What do you want us to do? Hire the new guy who qualified next? Of course they're going to get the best. This is a serious case, as you keep on telling us. As you keep on telling us you're going to kick us out of the league. So, of course, we're going to get the best lawyers. At the end of the day, if the lawyers tell you should do something, what are you going to do? Tell them, no, we're not going to do that. You're going to follow the advice. Everything that we've done is probably come from the lawyers, and that they're telling us to do this. That's obviously what we're going to do. So I think a lot of people think they're lawyers and accountants when really they're not. They're just people like us, just normal people, with normal jobs, and they just think that they know everything when they really didn't. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with saying that. I say it all the time. I don't know what's going on. I'm just a fan. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. I have no idea what's going on. I'm going to wait till the decision comes. And I think football would be in a much better place if fans generally just took that position rather than pretending that they know everything that's going on. By the way, these charges, we don't even know fully what they are. All they released was a sentence. In this year, you breached this rule. They didn't say you breached this rule because this happened and this is everything that we think. No, they just literally released a sentence saying you broke this rule in this year, like Article 5.1b in this rule in this year. That's it. So how people can go, oh, you're defo guilty because of all this? It's like, have you seen something that we've not? Because I ain't seen anything.
I think
See how it plays out.
Yeah, definitely. Just before we get your prediction, before you head off, LB, I think there might be a couple of questions that I think one or two wanted to throw your way. And some of them might already been answered because you might have already answered one or two already.
Let's go quick fire on this. So Andy Ford asked a question for LB: would you rather beat Newcastle or Real Madrid?
Real Madrid.
Good lad.
We'll take that. Ashley asks, does LB think City would be in the same position if they have the same constraints as we have on their if the roles were reversed?
Yeah, that's a question.
Probably not. Probably not.
Okay, cool. Let's go to this one from Eds. He asked, Bruno Guimaraes is heavily linked to City lately. Thoughts? 100 million, and he says would help with FFP. Is Bruno someone you'd like to see rock up at Man City?
Yeah, I mean, he's a good player. He's not on my initial list. There's other players that I'd rather have than him at the moment, but obviously he's a great player. If we can't get our initial targets, I'd be interested. And it's a release clause, which City love a release clause. So yeah, maybe. But I would prefer Paqueta personally. I think Paqueta is someone that I would rather have as a signing.
Paqueta plays further forward.
No, I know it's slightly different position, but I'm just saying I would rather have. If I had to spend my money on one, I'd rather go Paqueta than Bruno.
Pep was bigging up Bruno today in his presser, talking very positively about him. It's not the first time, but I'm glad you picked Paqueta because I'd much rather keep Bruno. That's for sure.
Right, one from Yano. I asked LB, what's your opinion of last season's recruitment? So I suppose our recruitment last season.
Your recruitment.
So you're talking Tonali, Lewis Hall, Tino Livramento, and the likes.
I mean, good. I mean, the players that you signed were good signings. Yeah, I've got it up here. Yeah, Tonali, obviously, that didn't quite work out at the moment, but out your hands, really. Barnes, good signing. Livramento, good signing. Hall, good signing. Yeah, I mean, good signings. I mean, these are good players. I mean, what I would say is these are probably, maybe other than Tonali, these are players that maybe might need a little bit of development. Even your older one in Harvey Barnes, 25, he probably still needs a little bit of refining and a bit more development. So I think your next transfer window should be maybe just one or two players, but the big hitters, more Tonalis. Yeah. You don't need more Barneses and more Halls and Livramentos.
We need a bit of squad depth as well, though.
But yeah, I know, but it depends on how much you can spend.
Yeah,
if you've got a decision of do we get 4 players or 5 players at £40 million a pop, or do you get 1 or 2 that are these are the real deal, the top players? Then you've got to make that decision. I don't know, and that's obviously it's a difficult one, but I'd if I was you, I'd probably go for fewer and get quality rather than quantity.
I think we're going to sign around 4 or 5 players in the summer, but however, I think 2 or 3 of them are going to be exactly what you said, LB. I think they're going to go out and get 2 or 3 where they're going to spend a little bit more money and they're going to be first team ready players. I think the other 2 will be supplemented squad players, and that will supplement, for example, just an example, the likes of Matt Ritchie, who leaves the club on a free transfer, Paul Dummett, who will leave on a free transfer. Like they've been in our squad on our match days for the majority of the season because of our injuries. Like they should be nowhere near the squad in all due respect. So replacing them with squad ready players on a cheap deal, Lloyd Kelly, for example, who's on a free. If we were to get him in, a left back that can play centre back, young, I think he's 24 years old. Tottenham after him, like he's a talented player. Eddie Howe signed him for Bournemouth. That makes sense on a free transfer. So getting someone like that in to supplement the squad, but then going out and getting a top level right winger to replace Miggy, going out and getting a top level centre back to rival Botman and Shaw, like something like that. That is what I see this summer. Who names? I've got no idea, but that's kind of what I expect.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Let's move on. Question for you and I, Pete. From Sean, he says, evening, late, but we'll watch back. Question for the Roller Boys. Had you been told at the start of the season that the amount of injuries and we would have had and Tonali, where would you expect us to finish? I'm going to say something like 10th.
I would have said, yeah. If you'd have mentioned that this had been an issue, for me, I would say anywhere in Europe, which is what my assessment was now. My assessments of this season have changed due to the situation that we've been in, but I'd still be saying now, even with the injuries and all the rest of it, anywhere in Europe, because we were just that good last season, that I still think even with the drop-off, we could have still been enough to be in Europe. And look, we're still 3 points off Europe. We play our next games against West Ham at St James's Park. We beat them. I know they play this weekend, but if we beat them, then we're back in it. We then got Everton at home. You know, we're not out of it yet. We're still in the conversation.
Cool. Last one, and this is a request to LB. It comes in from someone you may know, LB. It comes from Donna. Donna says, "Mr. LB, you call me Dons. Please say it again."
So this is just a troll. This is a troll.
Joel for sure. That is. But look, it wasn't a preview tonight. It was talking about takeovers, and appreciate you taking the time, LB. Absolutely spot on as always. Look, predictions for tomorrow. Obviously, Kevin De Bruyne is out. I'm hearing that Grealish is potentially back in the squad.
Grealish is apparently ready, but I wouldn't play him. I wouldn't risk him. I don't see the point.
What are you thinking? Are you going to go full strength tomorrow? Are you going to be resting players? Are you expecting to win?
I mean, I'd pretty much go as strong as you can, bar obviously Grealish and De Bruyne. Like, what's the point? You got international break. You can rest them tomorrow, and they could all get injured on international break. So you might as well, if they're going to get injured, I'd rather them get injured for City than the country. So, yeah, listen, one of our best performances this season come when we played you in that first game, and we managed to dominate that midfield. So I just want to win, man, because obviously our next game after this is Arsenal, and I want to go into the Arsenal game with a little bit of confidence and a win behind my belt. So I want to get a W tomorrow, get into the semi-finals, bit of confidence for Arsenal. So I'll go for a City win. Don't think it'll be easy. You'll definitely score because we can't defend. So I'll go for a 2-1 City win.
Wow, you go for a tight game there, Daz. What are your thoughts about the game?
I would love, absolutely like you, a miracle, but I can't see it happening tomorrow. Maybe if we go 5 at the back, mix it up a bit and keep it tight and try and get snatch and grab towards the end of the game, but I can see us getting beaten. I'm going to say we get beaten 2-0.
Yeah. Oh, a clean sheet. Oh, okay. That'd be rare for us.
Well, to be fair, it's even rarer for us, mate. We know we're going to concede because that's what we're doing at the moment. But yeah, I think you guys are going to win. Unfortunately, I think it'll probably be 3-1. I do think we'll probably score in the game because I do think we'll actually go full strength. I expect us to. Although I don't think Gordon's going to play. I think they're going to save him and let him go off to England because I think he deserves that. And just lastly, Gordon, think it's deserved, called up for England?
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty good. Better than Rashford, isn't he? You know what I mean? So, Yeah. And he works hard. Works hard off the ball, doesn't he? So yeah, he sort of suits that style of play. So yeah, I don't see why not. Deserved. I mean, our wingers at the moment are not up to much, are they? Sterling ain't doing much. Rashford ain't doing much. So yeah, there's the opportunity for him there. At least unlike Ben White, he actually wants it. So fair dues to him.
I think that's madness, but we're getting into that another time. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Great questions, comments, opinions as ever. We'll be back. There are plenty of shows coming out of our ears.
When we win with the reaction show, we'll be back.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we won't.
Keep an eye out for that. If we win, we're going big on that.
We're going live.
It may not be likely, so don't set your notifications on that one. But look, LB, top man, appreciate it. Great chat about the takeovers. And look, where can we find you, fella, before you leave?
Yeah, so my channel's It's LB. Obviously mainly City content, but do other stuff on there as well. And then the second channel's more LB, which is just random stuff, more non-City stuff. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
I did watch your Vindaloo.
Hot, mate. It was hot. I got some more recipes because it's the international break. After this week, I'm going to do loads of cooking videos, man. You know what I mean? The people love the cooking videos for some reason.
Yeah. So, to be fair, it was a good watch, and watching you sweat eating that vindaloo was quite hot.
It was hot, mate. Yeah.
I've never had a vindaloo, but you actually made me for a period of time make me think about having it until I saw those sweats. And I was like, nah.
Pete, if you have one in Newcastle, maybe we'll create a second channel and we can put that video out as well. There you go.
We're out, guys. We're out.
We're out. Just a quick shout out to our sponsors, theradiatorshed.com. Go check that out. Go check that website out and get all your radiator needs. Do you need any radiators, LB?
I don't think I do actually, but I don't know. Did they sell the ones? Have you seen the ones? It's like at the bottom of the floor. What's the skirting board? Have you seen those ones? I don't know if they sell them, but they basically take the radiator. They might do, but to take radiators off. See, I like those style radiators, man. You know what I mean? But like, there's a lot of these people getting these skirting board radiator things. So
wow,
I don't know if they sell them, but they're pretty cool.
I've never heard of that.
Russ, write it down, Russ.
Yeah.
I'm sure he knows all about it, and he probably does. Go check out the website for the latest. Also, shout out to H2O Bathroom Design Co., the Northeast's largest supplier of Velcro bathroom wear. Team Valley Gateshead, over 20 years established, ran by the family. Get down to the showroom on 11th Avenue, Team Valley Estate Gateshead. Yes, I found the note where I had all that details sorted down. But go check that out, the latest and greatest there. That is it. Thanks again to LB for joining us. We will, you never know when we'll appear again, but we'll definitely be back. We'll have to find Chris if he hasn't sold the house to pay out off his Cheltenham debts. But we should be back on Monday for some of this. Good night, everyone. Take care.